Hey guys, welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit, Am I the A-hole? This one's from user Girl with Internet. Would I be the a-hole by not telling a guy I've been dating for a month that I'm having artificial insemination to be a single mother? Prior to lockdown, I decided to be a single mother by choice. The journey to accepting this has taken 2 years and included counseling and a very thorough plan to ensure I could do this alone. I was happy with my decision, and I was at a good place in life where I realized my desire to be a mother was stronger than looking for a partner. Which may or may not happen, and with my fertility declining, I chose to go down this path as a solo woman. Right before I was due to have artificial insemination with donor sperm, the health crisis hit, and treatments were cancelled. There was no timeline for when things may reopen. For a few days, I was devastated as I was so mentally prepared for this. And then, I picked myself up and decided to park my plan. After all, I didn't have a choice. I downloaded a dating app out of curiosity and figured that I could still chat to guys and see what happened. Without any expectation, really. I've been talking with a guy, let's call him G, and it's only been a month, so very early stage. However, we've met up twice, with a third meeting planned. Spoke many times on the phone, and I got a really good feeling from him. For the first time in years, quite frankly, I feel emotionally connected with a man, and it feels completely natural and promising. During this time, my clinic called me to say they have had approval to open, and I do wish to go ahead this month with my treatment. I want to be a mother more than ever, so I said yes, and I'm now on medication with my appointment set for next week. While there's no guarantee I'll get pregnant on the first go, I have a conflict in my mind about informing G of my plan. On the one hand, it's at such an early stage of our romance without yet being anything committed that I feel like I'm bringing something up prematurely. On the other hand, I wonder what may happen as time goes on. Am I just delaying the inevitable? Is it deceptive of me not to inform him of something so fundamental in my life? A friend told me that I'd sabotage a potential relationship with him by telling him of this plan right now. And that a man who is really into me will accept me even if I'm pregnant, and that more time is needed for him to really get to know me. But in my mind, I'm wondering if it will upset him by suddenly saying, "Hey, I'm pregnant by the way." We've spoken loosely about wanting kids in the future, so I know he'd like a family, but it was a brief, passing comment. I'm also not willing to wait to get into a long-term relationship, and we are far too early on to be thinking about family together. Would I be the a-hole by keeping quiet about the plan for now? The judgment is, you're the a-hole. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Red Rose Belmont says, "Sorry, but you're the a-hole. This is very important information that you should share so he can make a decision as to whether they want to build a relationship with you. Before, it was just you. Now you are involving another person, who honestly you really don't need at all if your primary goal is to just have a child. You should let him know while it's still early in the process and he's not that attached. Waiting would be trapping them." OP responds, "Thank you for validating my thoughts. I never expected to be in this situation. I am going to tell him face to face in the next day or two." Already Dead for Years says, "Of course you would be the a-hole, unless you've made it perfectly clear to him that he is just a casual hookup and you have no future plans with him. All of the above screams out like obviously you would be the a-hole if you withhold that information now and just dump it on him later." Next, Daikon says, "You would be the a-hole. This is a huge thing. By hiding such a big potential deal breaker, you're essentially telling that guy you don't value his time and the fact that he might develop feelings for you, only to have a breakup. Am I just delaying the inevitable? Yes. Is it deceptive of me not to inform him of something so fundamental in my life? No, it's still early, but the nature of the situation, impossible to hide pregnancy, and timing is such that I'd still tell him if I were you. A friend told me that I'd sabotage a potential relationship with him by telling him of this plan right now. It'd be even worse if you wait. It's better to end something before it even starts than to have to deal with an actual breakup." A man who is really into me will accept me even if I'm pregnant. Don't listen to that friend. She's an idiot. Pregnancy makes the vast majority of men run for the hills if it wasn't caused by them. It has nothing to do with how much they like you. You don't judge people just based on the content of their character when it comes to dating, but also based on their life situation. Pregnancy and kids are a game changer. More time is needed for him to really get to know me. See, now that's deceptive. It's cool to wait in order to make sure that he's a decent person you want to keep seeing and only then decide to trust him with something like this. But it's not cool to wait so that he develops feelings and be less likely to bolt. I agree with the community. Holding this information, which is a huge piece of information, from any relationship at any stage would be an a-hole move. If OP's top priority is to become a mother, regardless of who the father may be or how she's gonna do it, that's fantastic. That is her choice and she can do that, of course. Now, if there's somebody else in the equation that could be emotionally involved, they deserve to know as well, because if they want to take things further, that child would also be a part of their life. So basically, that other person gets to have a choice whether he wants to be in this relationship any further or not. Now, what I am not saying is that this boyfriend gets to have a say whether she should be pregnant or not. He does not. That is OP's choice. He only gets a say whether he wants to stay in the relationship or not. Now, I understand OP's reservations. She's probably scared that the guy might bolt. Well, that is a risk she's going to have to take because of the goal that she wants. But of course, that's just my opinion. Now, how about we move on with the update to see what happened next? A month ago, I asked if I would be the a-hole for not telling a guy that I had only started dating that I had plans to become a single mother. I was scared I'd lose him, but I also felt I would be deceiving him by not telling him, thus making the investment in our relationship unfair. The comments were pretty much unanimous in that I'm an a-hole and I needed to tell him, and this validated my decision to go forth and be honest, as nervous as I was. I explained my situation about taking 2 years to come to this decision, how my fertility clinic had shut due to the bug, which was why I had gone back onto dating apps. I explained how my clinic had reopened after meeting him and how important it was to me to continue in my journey to become a mother. I knew this was baggage he hadn't expected and that there was every chance he would step away from the situation. Well, he didn't. We're now in a committed relationship and he's been supporting me in my journey. I've had 2 unsuccessful artificial inseminations with donor sperm, my original plan, and we've spoken about having a child together. As early on as it may seem, he told me my honesty made him consider his own future and how he really wants a family someday, and how he has admiration for me being honest about my situation, and how he wants to help me fulfill my desires to be a mother, whether with him or with donor sperm. Either way, he wants to be a part of my life. I wanted to provide this update as a positive outcome has come out of being labeled an a-hole, and it pushed me to do the right thing, which has in turn meant I have the most understanding and accepting boyfriend. Had I kept this information from him, it would have played on my conscience, as well as most likely have caused him to not trust me. So thank you. Smiley face. Edit. Gosh, I didn't think this post would blow up in this way. Thanks for the lovely words of support, and also those of you taking the time to provide food for thought of co-parenting and step-parenting. This is new territory for me, and I don't know anyone else in my day-to-day life who has been in this situation. So it's so valuable for me to hear your views and gain new perspectives. Thank you, kind Reddit community. What an awesome outcome. OP, this is fantastic. Honesty paid off. Like it should always do. It doesn't always happen, of course, because timing has a lot to do with it. But in general, I would say that being honest is usually the right way to go. But of course, people have a choice, and that's just my opinion. Now, regarding OP, it's just great news. There's nothing more to say other than congratulations, all the best for you 3, hopefully in the future, and yeah, take care OP, all the best for 2021. This one's from user moving on 4. Am I the a-hole for making my late wife's daughter move out so I can date in peace? My late wife passed away about a year ago. We were together 10 years, but not married until she became sick about a year before that. She has a daughter, Beth, who is 19 years old. Beth is taking college classes, but they are 100% online, so she has stayed at home, which is my house. I've owned this before my wife moved in, so it was never technically shared. I've wanted to be supportive of Beth, but don't want her here indefinitely or until she's done with college. That's 3 more years, and it makes dating super awkward. I had a lady friend over after a dinner date last week, and she was snarky towards her and later told me I'm moving on too fast. I tried to have an honest talk about being ready to move on and date others, but she kept calling me an a-hole. I'm just ready to move on with my life, but her presence is making that difficult. I told her I want her to move out at the end of this next semester, which would be the end of May, so 5 full months to find a place. She flipped out and told me I'm abandoning her to get laid. This isn't really the case. I just want to move on with my life and don't want to live with a 19-year-old any longer. She's still mad at me and is making living in my own home awkward, but she claims she can't afford to go anywhere else. Am I the a-hole? The judgment is, you're the a-hole. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Babaluski says, you're the a-hole. Wow, this is every dying parent's nightmare. Reddit DK2 says, not the a-hole. If I am reading this correctly, you and Beth's mother were involved for years, but did not marry or live together until she became ill. You were not a pivotal figure in Beth's life. You don't consider her a daughter, and you don't believe she considers you a father figure. When your deceased wife got ill, you and she married, in part so you could support her. She and Beth moved into your home, that you already owned. About a year later, your wife passed away. Beth was almost 18 at the time. After your wife passed away and Beth stayed living with you for the next year, you are now ready to date again, and it has been a year and Beth resents this. You do not want Beth to continue to live with you. You supported your wife when she needed you. You helped Beth for over a year. You have done more than could have been reasonably asked. Puppy Jito says, you're the a-hole. She's not your late wife's daughter. She's your stepdaughter. Opie's edit. I did not raise or adopt Beth. My wife was very clear that she was not looking for a replacement father for her. Beth never lived with me until 2 years ago when she was almost 18, when her mom moved in with me due to her being sick and needing more attention. I never played a fatherly role in her life. Before moving in, she and her mom moved every few years for a while. Beth didn't move in till her senior year of high school because her mom needed my help. Obviously, couldn't move the mom in without the daughter. Before giving her notice to leave, I tried to have a talk about ground rules for staying here, mostly including being polite to any guests of mine. She then went off on me for moving on with my life. That is when I made the decision. It wasn't exactly your traditional marriage. Before getting sick, my late wife never wanted to get married because her parents had such a nasty one, and her parents have been divorced a combined 4 times. I'm not religious, so never felt need to get married either. When she got sick, we realized her insurance was terrible while mine through work is much better. So it was a practical decision to get married so she could be added to mine. Even then, she affirmed I wasn't responsible for Beth. I'm not just trying to get laid like many have said. I'm moving on and trying to have a normal adult relationship. Final response. After this blew up overnight, even though the top comment says you're the a-hole, it seems everyone who actually read all the details has affirmed my view. I feel much better about my decision. Thank you, everybody. OP, technically, you are not the a-hole, but really, you are the a-hole. But I'd say that if you really loved your wife or girlfriend or whatever the name she had during your 10-year relationship, then you'd also care a little bit about the daughter, right? I mean, enough to make sure that she's okay. And not just kick her out of your house because you feel she makes you uncomfortable. She's going through grieving as well. She lost her mother, somebody you apparently loved. So after reading your self-serving edit and that final response that you put there, you could technically not be the a-hole, but you are definitely a douche. Of course, that is just my opinion. So how about we move on with the update to see what happened next. My post got a lot of attention and there have been some developments, so I thought people might be interested. I accept some blame in the situation, but there were also a lot of details I didn't have room for. Since this post, Beth and I had some long conversations about the near future. Beth was mad for a couple of days, but yesterday came to talk to me and told me she realizes I've done a lot for her and wanted to thank me, but also acknowledge it's probably best for both of us to move on. She also recognized I have a right to move at my own pace and apologized for lashing out at me. One of her best friends is looking to get her own place as well, so they will be looking into getting an apartment together, either by this summer or sooner. While we're not religious, as a holiday gift, I told her I will pay her entire security deposit when she finds her place. Not entirely sure if we will keep in touch after she moves out, but I'm glad we've come to an agreement that will allow both of us to move on without resentment towards each other. Thought some people might be interested due to the passionate responses I got. Well, OP, it sounds like you solved this properly, I think. It's a good thing that you and Beth don't resent each other anymore and that you are going to part ways properly. It's very nice of you to pay her security deposit entirely, but I gotta say, that feels like a buyout to me. I still think that OP is a douche, but of course, that's just my opinion, and it is absolutely irrelevant to whatever OP is doing. And there's still a little bit of time left, so let's try to squeeze in another post. This one is from user Little19390. Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize to a coworker over an Xbox? I work in a toy store on the gaming department. My sister asked me if I could get an Xbox Series X for my nephew for Christmas. I explained that they were sold on a first-come, first-served basis, even to staff, but I would try to get one. Last week, I rang the store to see if there were any Xboxes in on delivery. My manager, Jack, said there was one left. I said I'd try to get there before it goes. Jack offered to hold it for me until I started my shift later that day. He told my colleague George over the radio not to sell it, and I heard George acknowledge. I arrive a couple of hours later for my shift and ask George to put through the Xbox. He tells me that he has already called his friend who wants one, that he can buy the one that's left and he is waiting outside. I tell him it had been held for me, which he knew about, and regardless, it is first come first served, and I was here first. George then gets aggressive and angry, refuses to serve me, and starts talking on the phone to his mate. He then tried to guilt trip me, saying it's for his mate's son. I tell him it's for my nephew, and he gets angrier. I call Jack down to explain. Jack tells George to go on his break, to which George gets in my manager's face. Jack tells him to leave for his break or he'll send him home for threatening behavior. George leaves whilst calling me an F&B. George hasn't spoken to me since. On the day this happened, I was so upset that I couldn't work on my department with him, and I spent most of my shift crying because of the name calling and snide comments I'd been getting from him. I spoke to another coworker, Sarah, about it because I didn't know what to do. She told me George had been saying I had been aggressive and intimidating him and that I should apologize to him. No one believes his story as there were multiple witnesses to the incident. Am I the a-hole for not apologizing? I don't believe I did anything wrong. He is the one continuing to ignore me, make snide comments, and call me names when he thinks I can't hear. I really don't want to fall out over an Xbox, and I know it sounds petty, but I'm not going to feel guilty for buying the Xbox or for not apologizing when I haven't done anything wrong. I'm kinda scared to work alone with him now because I don't know what he's gonna be like. The judgment is not the a-hole. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Wardog008 says, not the a-hole. George agreed to hold it for you, and sounds like a total wanker. Frankly, I'd have fired him on the spot if I was in the manager's shoes. Latsari069 says, not the a-hole. You said it yourself. It's being sold on a first-come, first-served basis. You came first. He knew it was being held for you, but he called his friend anyway. You don't need to apologize to him. He needs to apologize to you. MZ Pacman86 says, not the a-hole. Apologize for? If George needed a reserved Xbox, the time to speak up would have been when he was instructed to hold one. He actually called his friend after he was instructed to hold it. Then he was rude and disrespectful to you and your boss, almost getting sent home for his behavior. And the petty snipping will only get him in further trouble. You did the right thing the right way. F George. OP's edit. After posting this, I immediately came off here because I was so worried I was gonna be called the a-hole in this situation. Thank you to everyone so much for your comments and advice. I have a day off today, but I'm scheduled in tomorrow, so I'm going to speak to Jack then. Honestly, it didn't even occur to me that what George is doing is harassment or bullying, and I don't know why, but until you guys pointed it out, I didn't think like that. Thank you guys so much for your help and advice. I will post an update in a few days to see what happens. Absolutely agree, not the a-hole, and I honestly don't think it's necessary to explain why you're not the a-hole. So let's just move on with the update to see what happened. I know it's been a while since my post, but I wanted to be able to give a full update. I spoke to Jack and he told me George had come to him a week or so after the incident and apologized. He said he overreacted to him and shouldn't have done what he did to him. Jack accepted his apology, however, because it was aggressive behavior, he did get a note on his file. George accepted the punishment and they both agreed to put it behind them. After getting all of the responses I did, I said to Jack that George's behavior could be considered bullying and he agreed, so he said he would speak to my other coworker, Sarah, as she was witness to his behavior. I don't know how that meeting went as me and Sarah haven't worked on shift together, but from what happened on Christmas Eve, I assume she spoke up for me. Me and George were scheduled to work Christmas Eve together. It didn't bother me. I knew he would be busy, so we would barely have time to speak to each other. I started before George to prep for opening and he was starting when the store opened. He arrived a bit early like normal and he had a massive gift bag with him. He came straight up to me, held out the gift bag and gave a huge apology speech. I cried, he cried, and we hugged it out. He brought me a bottle of Prosecco, chocolate, and various other stuff. I genuinely believed he was sorry. He said he was out of order and he is disgusted with himself for how he treated me and he didn't speak to me because he was embarrassed and scared that he had lost me as a friend. I believe he is truly sorry. We have decided to draw a line under it and we have been really getting on since. It's like how we used to be. I want to thank everyone for your advice and guidance. I don't think I would have got this resolution if it wasn't for this sub. Thank you all so much. OP's edit. Wow, I didn't expect this much of a response. I'm trying to reply to comments, but there are so many. Thanks to everyone for their kind words and support. I am so happy and relieved that this was the outcome. However, thanks to the bug, both myself and George are furloughed, along with a lot of other staff. So we are now currently not working for the foreseeable, which I'm gutted about, but I'm thankful I'm still employed and everything at work is, hopefully, gonna be fine. Well, OP, that is a great outcome. He apologized by himself, he even brought you a gift. He was truly sorry. I would think that's definitely the best possible outcome you could have hoped for. This one's from user Puffin Cake Throwaway. Am I the a-hole for not letting my daughter have a gift on her sister's birthday? I don't think I am the a-hole here, but my mother does. My youngest baby is about to turn 1. My oldest has had some adjustment issues in the last year. She was really not ready for a sibling and has found it hard to adapt to less attention and sharing toys. I chose a specific theme for little one's birthday and my mother let me know that she bought a gift for my older daughter that matches the theme. She casually said, "You can decide when you want to give it to her." I thanked my mom for the gift and then said I would choose a time after the birthday and birthday party for my older daughter to receive the gift because she needs to learn that other people's birthdays are not about her, especially her baby sister's. My mother was not very happy and said that she understands my reasoning, but she bought it for my daughter to have at the party and hoped I would let her have it. I said no and restated my reasons. She needs to learn appropriate boundaries. I don't want her to be spoiled with gifts. She needs to accept other people's special occasions are not about her. My mom was saying she's just a little girl and can learn that another time. So, am I the a-hole? Worth pointing out that I was not raised receiving gifts on my sibling's birthday or anyone else's special occasion. And they didn't do that with my sibling either. My mother indulges my kids more than she did her own. The judgment is no a-holes here. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Freckles X McGee says, no a-holes here. I have nieces and nephews and totally get her perspective as well as yours. Since she is having a hard time adjusting, I would suggest maybe finding another way to make her feel special on her sister's birthday. Maybe a special big sister shirt or a task she's in charge of that makes her feel like a big sister, but make sure it doesn't feel like she has chores the day of the party. Unusual Leadership 17 adds, or she could use little sister's first birthday as an opportunity to reinforce the lesson that not everything is about big sister. You know, just like OP said was the plan. Because, and hear me out here, not everything is about the big sister. She needs to move out of the center of the universe because there are other people who live in that universe too. OP, you're not the a-hole. Ready or not, your child has a sibling. Part of her adjusting to that is adjusting to the fact that there will be times, like little sister's birthday, when the celebration is not about her and her current feelings. It's about celebrating her sister. Better that she learns that now rather than starting down a road of selfishness that will build big problems for the whole family later. Grumpy Old Fart 74 says, no a-holes here. Perfectly sensible to teach your child that not everything is about her. Your mother isn't an a-hole here. Quote, my mother indulges my kids more than she did her own. End quote. Is just what grandparents do. It's much easier to think about the lovely little things when you're not stressing all the time about just keeping food on the table. And now for OP's edits and updates. To clarify, my oldest child turns 3 a few weeks after my youngest turns 1. I didn't leave it out to cause controversy or make myself seem less of an a-hole or something. I didn't realize I hadn't included both ages. My older daughter loves her baby sister. She is very proud of telling people that she is a big sister too. The areas she struggles with are patience and sharing. So very normal toddler things. She assumes that anything new that comes into the house is hers. So I don't want to reinforce this belief by giving her gifts on her sister's special day. I know my youngest won't remember her birthday, but we've had a difficult year this year with the bug and the deaths of relatives, so it's nice to celebrate together instead of commiserate. My oldest daughter will help me bake the birthday cake. She loves cooking and is really excited to help with that. And that's it for this video. If you'd like, here are other videos from my channel that you would enjoy. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.